Welcome to the show where it is Doom Patrol week. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, along with me, Jay,
What up?
Adam,
Hello, hello.
and this week's special guest star, Christy, my wife.
Howdy.
And we're going over, as I said, the Doom Patrol. And before we get going, just wanted to let you guys know that our friend Eric has decided that work is getting a little too hectic for him, and that he needed to take some time away and not do the show for now. So Christy's going to be taking his spot this week, and then we're going to be trying some other people out to see, what really works with us, and see if there's people that enjoy watching shows and talking about them and figuring out some new shows to experience in their life, especially during the pandemic. So before we get going, how is everyone doing?
Doing pretty good. Life is hectic, but hanging in there.
Jay?
I am fantastic, and I'm very happy to be here talking about Doom Patrol.
Yeah, so a little bit about, Christy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Good. All good.
Cool. All right, so we watched Doom Patrol, which was I wasn't quite sure if this was an HBO Max original or HBO or exactly what HBO Max really is. Someone said it was like the merger of AT&T and HBO together or something. But it is a DC original series on HBO Max, and I thought that the quality, number one, was very, very good, and really, I thought this was a very interesting take on the superhero or the metahumans. As we saw recently when we did Boys, Hollywood, if you will, is trying to look at different ways of looking at the superhero. The superhero's gotten a little boring. And to me, this was a refreshing re-delve into the superhero world.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I was really impressed with the production quality, number one. But also, doing another superhero show again, I was a little reticent, but it felt like this one was a little bit different. And even straight from off the bat, I was like, oh, okay. So they're led by a man in a wheelchair, and they all live in a mansion together. This just feels like AirSat's X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a tiny amount of research on this show, and it actually turns out that the comic book that this is based on, the original Doom Patrol, actually debuted 3 months prior to the first X-Men comic.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Who's ripping off who?
Huh.
Well, I do know that in the Marvel DC rivalry, there is quite a bit of rehashing of each other's characters, like Colossus, Galactus, Deadpool, Deadshot, stuff like that.
Yeah, very true.
So there's a little bit of that, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll use your character also. But the show, I guess, follows. It's kind of a hodgepodge, kind of an X-Men style, where you have the Chief, who is Niles Calder, the man in the wheelchair, who is played by, was it Timothy Dalton?
Yes.
And the first time I ever saw Timothy Dalton was definitely in Hot Fuzz. And so every time I see him, I'm like, was it Uncle or Cousin Nancy or something like that? I remember he had a girl's name in it.
I don't know. It's been too long.
It's been a long time since I watched it, but he absolutely did a great job with this role. I thought he played this role very, very well. But
if you consider the bigger picture, though, he was really only in like half of the show.
Yeah, but I don't know. I felt like he just the portrayal of it. He definitely came off very, very genuine. That's how I took it, at least. But going over our characters, we have Jane, who is a multi-personality or split personality individual, where each one of her different personalities has different superpowers. We have Rita Farr, who is a 1950s actress who got affected by some type of toxic gas that caused her to turn into like a giant blob monster, but she can use her focus to keep form. We have Larry Trainer, which is a former...
Trader.
It's Trainer.
It is
Trader.
Trainer.
I'm looking at the wiki and it says Trader. No, Trainer.
Trainer, yeah.
He was a traitor, though.
Well, Larry Trainer is a fighter pilot for the U.S. Air Force, experimental pilot who gets affected by some type of radiation being, and it comes to dwell inside of him. And then we have Cliff Steele, who one of my favorite, played by Brendan Fraser, basically a former NASCAR driver who, I guess, he got in a car wreck and only his brain survived somehow, and was put into a robot. And that's kind of our. Oh yes, and we have of course Cyborg Victor Vic Stone, which is a young, athletic man who is in an accident in a, I guess, a lab, and almost died, but his father was able to rebuild him as a cyborg with kind of like robot parts. So that kind of gives us our main characters, and our main bad guy, played by Alan. Is it Tudyk?
Tudyk, yeah.
Tudyk is Mr. Nobody, or Eric Morden, who is kind of like a quadra-dimensional being. Not quite sure how that works, but apparently he gets his superpowers from other dimensions.
Should we include Flex Mentallo into that list of main characters?
He's not really a main character. He just kind of
Maybe
had
if
like
we season 2.
Yeah, it
Like-
looks like he's gonna stick with it though. Yeah, I mean, Cyborg wasn't one of the main characters from the get-go.
That's true.
Yeah,
And
but
Cyborg
he
definitely played a role.
fair enough. But I guess the crew. What happens is the chief is kidnapped. The spoiler alert, gets kidnapped by Mr. Nobody, our bad guy, and our ragtag team of X-Men wannabes have to figure out how to come together, bond, become a team, and save the chief, so to speak.
How much do you think they paid for Brendan Fraser's voice?
Not much. This is a comeback for him. You know,
So
like
is he wearing like the robotic suit? Is somebody else acting that character?
I believe someone else is playing the body, and he is just playing the voice.
I mean, because he does come in
Worth
into the
looking at,
underground
though.
where you can see his face, and he's wearing the outfit, and he looks like robotic, Cliff Steele.
Well, according to the most reliable source in the world, Wikipedia, both Larry Trainor and Cliff Steele had different actors for when they were covered up and when you could see their faces.
Okay.
Kind of like
Yeah,
Darth Vader.
Those actors did good, though. Can I say that? Like, especially Larry Trainor. Like, I felt like his voice was coming from that with the man.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't love the Larry Trainor arc.
So I guess let's get into it first.
Yeah.
What did you like? What did you not like? Let's start with Christy. What did you not like?
I mean, there's very little in the camp of not like when it comes to this show. I really enjoyed this show. I thought there was a couple of times that they addressed things that I felt like were pop culture references, like Danny the Street being gender neutral or binary, non-binary, gender queer. Like, I thought that was a super interesting spin on that particular element that we have in pop culture right now. I love the fact that Larry Trainor, he was going through a need to find something lovable about himself and something in that way. But I just felt like the way that they dragged it out was really exhausting. I loved Rita Farr. I love her. I don't know. I really only have likes that I have to offer.
Well, you liked Rita Farr. What did you like about Rita?
I love what they did with Rita Farr. I love what they did with Cliff. I love that Cliff is basically a roboton with infinite humanity. I love that Cyborg is struggling infinitely with the humanity of the situation that his body is becoming mechanical. Like, I love that this completely non-human element that is inside of Larry is what is bringing the humanity to Larry in the situation. I love that Jane is so filled with humanity that she's basically not giving anything to anybody to protect them. I don't know. I love all of the humanity of the show. It's just fantastic.
So do you think that this show is more of a story of metahumans rediscovering their own humanity after kind of losing it?
It is, and I love the line that they cross with the whole, breaking the meta boundary with this show, where you're an observer in and of yourself in a way. I love the whole show. I'm that person that I've always grown up watching all of the comic book style movies and television shows. And they're just kind of like the semblance of the nuclear family where it's just all polished and pretty and you don't really see the nitty gritty on the inside. And I really feel like this show effectively brought humanity to that screen. I really loved it.
Jay, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that thought, Christy, about how each character is dealing with their humanity, and something that for me set this show apart from other tired superhero shows was the therapy episodes where
Mm.
Yes.
the characters examine themselves and exhibited some personal growth, and that's not really something that you see very often. And this show for me, it stumbled out of the gate. I didn't really like it very much at first, but that therapy episode really brought me back into it.
Love that.
No, yeah, I thought that the therapy was really good. Cliff was
And
really
then
one of
Cliff
the
was
big.
so like desperate for it. Like, please, we've got to hash this shit out. I don't know how to
Yes.
feel anything, so we have to just hash it out.
Adam, thoughts?
I really did like the show. If I had to nitpick some things, I would say that at certain moments, maybe just like one or two, it felt like the show was kind of dragging its feet. But that being said, I really liked I don't know, the kooky aspects to the show. Like it was kind of reminiscent of Happy for me in that. Like the very idea of like a fourth or fifth dimensional being that's like cut into pieces, and I don't know, that was
An
crazy.
interdimensional donkey gate.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why I got the Happy vibes initially. Is like, oh, it's a donkey.
I
But
don't really understand the difference between Mr. Nobody and the donkey and the cockroach. Like, who is the cockroach?
so I think if I had to guess or theorize on what his power is, it's the ability to add certain mechanics to random objects through like creative ability or something. I don't know. Because there seemed to be a mechanic in the donkey's butthole that turned it into a wormhole, right? Or like when he left a trap in, I think it was Danny for the beard guy, which is a whole nother character. Uh, like he wasn't there, and it just kind of triggered when something happened. So I'd assume that Mr. Nobody's power was like the ability to place certain mechanics in what's it called, the world.
Well,
And that also, I would assume, is why he is kind of scared, because he can only really lay traps, and if you actually get to him, that's where he is like, oh crap, I
well,
can't
it
really do
doesn't
much
seem
here,
white space doesn't seem to be something he created.
or
He
can
he
control or get out of.
he can manipulate it to some degree, but also showed that like Rita could manipulate it, that each of them could. So I think it's just that he knew how to, and they were unaware, you know. But he has the ability to move between our dimension and the white space. Also, Ezekiel is separate and apart from him. It says that on the Wikipedia that he's just an
Ezekiel the
intelligent.
cockroach?
Yeah, it's just an intelligent cockroach with the ability to speak. He's deeply religious and believed he's worthy of great power. So that's just happens to be a thing that exists, I guess.
But he was like all throughout the show, right?
Yeah, he's
Like
just in
from
the
the
DC
very
world
first
apparently.
episode, or maybe it wasn't the very first episode, but when the
It's
town got destroyed, he was like,
Donkey
here it
Patrol
is.
is the first
Cloverton.
episode he shows up.
Yeah,
Which,
that
by
was
the
a good
way, I
episode.
think it's super clever that, with the exception of the pilot, that every single one of the episodes is something patrol
Yeah, I
in the
liked that.
title of the show.
I'll tell you what, though, I did not like the cockroach. Just like my inner squeamishness, I could not. I had to look away in a lot of the scenes where it was just these close-ups on the cockroach.
Yeah.
That's not something I can handle.
That didn't bother me. The mother rat getting run over, I was like, oh, I saw it
That was
coming
a
a mile away.
funny little side story quest thing, though.
Admiral
I think.
Whiskers, yeah.
Yeah, that whole little you ran over my mother, so I've got this vendetta, and I don't know. That whole little arc I thought was random and really funny.
I absolutely agree.
Jumbling, Cliff's brain and making him think that he was seeing. So did he not have an affair? Did the guy not have an affair with his wife? Is that what we figured out in the long run? The one that was the dad that became the dad to his daughter?
I don't know if that was ever
remember his name
settled.
They never confirmed. There's a few things that were never really explained, right?
Yeah.
Like they haven't explained why nobody's dying of radiation poisoning around Larry Traynor anymore, even though he's got the radiation thing in him. Like, are those lead bandages? Like, does that explain it, or what? So that's one that I've not understood the connection, because they had him in the beginning and everyone was dying around him. Remember, like there was the big
Were they
radiation.
dying?
There was a scene where it's like you're emitting so much radiation, and there was even a part where they're in the room with all the suits on, and they said something about him emitting radiation, but they never explained
I think
it.
that's just what they told people so they could lock him up.
But perhaps, but that never was clear either. That just wasn't ever explained.
No, I
Right.
feel like they did verbalize that you shouldn't get too close to him.
For
feel like
sure,
it
because
was
they had him
said.
like behind lead windows.
Yeah.
But then they had him in the prison for a while, and that was when he first met Mentallo. Lex
Love that.
Mentallo.
Love that story that whole backstory.
Yeah, the Mentallo
Yeah.
was very good.
And he didn't seem to be like giving off radiation there. So I think that was just they were like, holy crap, this guy survived a crash landing from a spaceship and he's entirely burned alive. By all accounts, he should be dead. He's not. What the hell is going on? Okay, lock him up. Like that's what I assume that logic was. But again, that is an assumption. They didn't explain it. So
There was something else I feel like I didn't completely understand that had to do with Rita and a baby. Did anybody else pick up on that?
There was a girl who got an abortion that she convinced to get an abortion, and she committed suicide or something like that. And that was
That what it was?
Yeah,
it was a
remember
very
the
like
original.
Weinstein casting couch type situation.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the girls that she got for the producer or whatever got pregnant, and she convinced to get an abortion, and then she committed suicide. So she felt like she had blood on her hands. So that was, remember, her ex boyfriend, the mentalist guy,
Yeah.
was screwing with her using that memory.
Right, and that's I was confused on. I don't feel like they really told you much about it except that
Re-
really messed with me.
Rita told us the story at one point at the very end. She tells the story about getting girls for this guy so that she got jobs. And then the last time before she turned into the blob was the time where this girl committed suicide.
Got you.
One of the most affecting parts of the show for me was the moments where Rita comes, sort of accepts that she was a monster before she was a blob monster.
Yeah.
She's known as Elastigirl in the comics.
It's interesting.
I also just loved her performance.
Yes, very good actress.
I don't know if anybody else is a fan of the honestly now terrible sitcom starring Charlie Sheen, 2.5 Men, but she had a recurring to main role throughout that show where she played like the world's ditziest person that is just miles and miles away from who Rita Farr is.
Yeah.
So it was I enjoyed seeing her as as
More
someone
full
other
potential.
than just a hot idiot.
I love her patience. I love that when she gets into a situation, she has just got this ingenuity that I don't feel like any of the other characters have. I feel like she arced more than any of them did. Like kind of having her ego death that she went through where she took all of her pictures down and then she just went back into life, like still more or less with the same name, but deciding not to be stressed out by things, like just kind of taking them on with full force and with grace. I just love her character. I hated her in the beginning. I started out loving Jane the most, and Jane was probably the one that I liked the least by the end. And I hated Rita the most in the beginning and loved her the most in the end.
Wow, that's quite a switch.
Yeah, although the underground episode was really my favorite episode out of all of
You
them, I
got to,
really
like,
loved it. But I don't like Jane. Like I probably dislike her for all the reasons they want you to dislike her. She's so unpredictable.
I really like the underground episode as well. You really got to kind of see and visualize everything that was going on, which what was going on up there. And I think there was a lot to Jane. Although I kind of would agree with your opinion. Like by the end, Jane, I wasn't as interested in the character as I was when it first started.
Mhm.
Well, and they
And
didn't
I
really
would say
flesh
Ruby
out
was my
the.
favorite character, even though I think she was a very good character. But
Mhm.
uh,
Agreed.
They didn't really flesh out Jane. I feel like we saw like 7 of her 50 personalities.
it's
You know, we
kind of
saw a
hard to
bunch.
flesh out that character, right?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like there could have been a lot more ways they could have explored that. Like, especially in the underground, when we started getting introduced to more, and we saw a whole lot more people down there. I
I
know
found it
they kind
really
of,
confusing that they had like some of the people had different faces and some of them looked just like Jane.
yeah. But I guess that's just like the mental infrastructure down there, you know? Like some of the personalities are so starkly different, and some just are like maybe more autopilot.
Mm, fair.
I did really
Well,
enjoy Diane Guerrero's portrayal. I thought she did a fantastic
Oh,
job
yeah.
having to do all of those different personalities. And one of the high points for the show for me was her the bits where she was Karen. Was it the one
I
who?
totally agree.
Yes, especially the moments where she's with that guy who she keeps tricking. She always goes back to
Yeah.
and like tricks into marrying her each time. Because what I loved that the show did was when she was Karen, it would play the theme song of the show, but in the style of a '90s sitcom or a '90s rom com.
It's
Uh-huh.
funny.
I like that they totally tucked her underground, like never to come back out again until the scene where Jane is about to be killed, and then all of a sudden Karen comes out and charms the guy and flirts with him and gets herself out of the situation. Like, when would that superpower ever be necessary? And then all of a sudden, like in the most extreme situation, it was necessary. I
Mhm.
loved it.
Well,
And I
that
love that all of the characters just keep repeating, "Oh, she's the worst."
well, and
It
also
was a good social commentary.
the doctor, the one that was a psychiatrist or whatever that could get people to believe stuff. That also, I like that whole the D creator recreator. That was pretty impressive. And I also thought that in an interesting way, it showed revealed a little bit about the DC universe. That if people believe in something, it comes into existence in a certain way. Like that was really interesting just to kind of throw into the show on a side note. Like this show very much to me, and everybody can feel free to disagree, but it felt like we watched a whole bunch of side questing until someone got to the final quest of going to get the chief. Like I know
For sure.
even like Mr. Nobody kind of made a joke about that at the end. Well,
And that's what I meant is it's like when I said it was kind of dragging its feet a little bit. It was still really good, but you didn't really have a whole lot of meat. You had a lot of potatoes.
It was a lot of monster of the week, which we don't really get very much anymore because
Mhm.
almost every TV show is now very heavily serialized. And in some ways I felt like that was refreshing, but in others I think I have to agree with Adam that there were points where the show dragged a little bit for me. For example, near the beginning with the D creator recreator and the lost city of Nirnheim, and I never got into that.
I didn't
It was
get into
very
that
Alice
one
in
as much,
Wonderland
but I
esque.
did get into like when they went to Paraguay and they met the guy that became the metahuman that was like half raptor, half tree, half
Animal,
whatever.
mineral, vegetable
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he just
Like
kept
I
coming up.
really enjoyed that side quest.
No, whenever they're doing the puppets and like he's like and the war began and the Nazi flag dropped and
Uh-huh.
the guy's
Yes.
kind of goes, ooh.
But at least that part felt important because it was fleshing out Mr. Nobody's
Yeah, for sure.
origin story.
True. Or is it that we got dropped in at what was intended to be the end of the story and that the D creator was supposed to end it all and we just happened to see them jump onto new quests because they were managing to stop the
Overcome
D
it.
creator.
I
Yeah.
just think that this was their way of fleshing out everybody's story. I feel like, to me,
It
what
gave
made
all
everything.
the seasoning, the meat on the bones. Like I feel like that's what we had at him was potatoes. And I feel like all of that extra side story kind of gave the substance. It gave everybody depth. We character developed during that whole time. Like we know everybody's boundaries now. We find what's endearing about them, even though they're also all terrible people in their own right. Like, I don't know. I feel like we marinated through this whole season.
I feel like the problem is, and maybe this is the thing, is that most of the stuff they dealt with had nothing to do with Mr. Nobody. It had to do with either their personal story or had to do
Yeah.
with. It felt more like season 2 stuff if that would make any more sense. Like usually season 1, you're kind of getting a story out of the way with a little bit of backstory along the way. This felt like it was like, hey, here's our big story. Now let's do backstory for a few more episodes, and then now let's get back to the main story arc. And I enjoyed it. I do agree that there were, like, especially Larry Trainer, his story took too long to progress.
Yeah.
Like I just felt like there were
7
times where I was
years,
like,
some would say.
yeah, 70 years. So I felt like they could have done that a little bit better. But at the end, though, I very much did have a very endearing feel for everybody, even Vic. Like I thought Cyborg was played very, very well by the actor who played him. Excuse me. And man, that scene where he's beating his dad, that was rough.
Yeah.
Very rough.
That was rough. But sorry?
Love Cyborg. Don't love any of that.
But so anyone have any critiques, anything else they want to say about the show?
I really, really enjoyed the meta aspects, especially the narration from Mr. Nobody, where he knew that it was a show.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
Yeah,
anytime
the
you
fourth
do
wall
that,
breaking.
you know, when Abed did that on Community, like that's something that I really enjoy. Like in the first couple of episodes, he throws a little comment about, oh, the critics are gonna hate this show.
Yeah. Or he made reference to the opening, like, intro flashback to show you, like, what previously on. And it was like,
Right.
now that we've got the previously on out of the way.
Yeah. Or later on, he said, oh, you might as well skip forward to the previously on of the next episode to see what happens here.
But I do think that I guess, do you guys think that Mr. Nobody survived the explosion? Because that there was the explosion at the end. He didn't have a way to get out, but he was a fourth dimensional being. I feel like
I think that's part of his character, is that he's trapped and he wants to make people believe that he's all powerful, even though in reality he is trapped. And in being trapped, that's kind of also his punishment. And he doesn't have free access, but kind of invincibility goes along with that, right? So yeah, I think he definitely did survive, especially because that character has so much more. I also think the
Potential.
Doctor is still alive, because if you can separate your consciousness or whatever into multiple different bodies, and you're a really smart scientist, wouldn't you just hide different bodies that aren't near you?
You think the Von
Yeah.
whichever doctor?
That's the one.
So it's interesting because I feel like he's still alive too, and I feel like he was the donkey.
Oh.
Could be. I just think the donkey was
just a
like-
prop used by Mr. Nobody. That's how I feel.
But I feel like when they were on the bus, it was the first episode, they're on the bus, and Niles looks over and sees the donkey, and I feel like he said the doctor's name. Von Fuhrer, or whatever his name was.
Well, but he would have saw it
Von
down there,
Fuchs?
but
Von Fuchs.
Yeah, whatever.
Von
Von
Fuchs.
Fuchs. I'm not saying that that's exactly what I remember, but I feel like he made reference to whomever that doctor was.
I think Mr. Nobody comes back for season 2 and ultimately becomes part of the Doom Patrol. That's what I
do too.
think.
Man, I would love that. Like,
Mhm.
that would make me probably double as likely to watch season 2.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I love Alan Tudyk just in general. He's an actor I really enjoy.
Mhm.
I really like the fourth wall breaking too.
Yeah.
We've seen success with it and stuff like Deadpool, and I'm glad to see that people are taking that and realizing, hey, we can do a lot with this.
I feel like you really have to land it if you're going to try and execute that in any type of form that people are watching for entertainment. You really have to land it, but when you do, it is so perfect.
For sure.
Yeah.
Were you ready to do some scoring, or you got something else to say, Adam?
No, I'm okay. I really did like this show. I guess I'll go ahead and lead off scoring. I like to see superhero shows that don't exactly follow the mold. You know, Superman does get old, despite what you will say. There are some superhero stories that just are not interesting because certain mechanics, foundational mechanics that I don't know, just make them lack interest. Like, I think this show was really interesting because you had all these problems and flaws in the characters that you had to fix, and you got to see them fix it, and it made you invested.
Well, and you
Uh,
saw that there still had like a little bit of their mortal side of trying to right their wrongs and do better.
for sure, for
You
sure.
know.
So I don't know. I think I'm gonna go ahead and give the show an 8.5. Uh, only because, kind of like we had discussed, seemed like they added a lot of backstory, which definitely has its merits. I feel that they added too much, and I would have liked to see the story progress a little bit more with Mr. Nobody, because that they hooked you from episode one
Mm-hmm.
and two with that, and it was just like, holy crap, what is happening, right? All this crazy shit going on, uh, and also like the emotional aspect of, you know, oh, Brendan Fraser's character. What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Cliff Steele.
Cliff. Yeah.
Cliff. Like, that was rough, right? Like, that was a lot of emotion there.
Mm-hmm.
And also he's an asshole. So
He's
it's
just an
like,
asshole.
he's a lovable asshole. So yeah, I think an 8.5 is good for this show. I'd probably be willing to say that I would rate season 2 higher, just because I think they've done a lot of this backstory, and it they've done a lot of the setup, and you'd probably get to really see that setup pay off in season 2. Which I had heard from Jay that they had put you on a cliffhanger for the season finale, so I'm not sure I want to start it yet, because that would suck.
But they also renewed it for a third season.
Yeah,
For
you are
sure,
gonna
it's
get him
coming back, but with this whole world situation we got going on,
Global pandemic, yeah.
global pandemic, timing the episode right there. But yeah, no,
Well,
it's I just want to see things kind of
progress.
That's
They
right.
they laid a good foundation. You want to see what they build on top of it.
exactly.
All right. So 8.5 from Adam. Jay, what do you got?
This is something I struggled with because with a lot of these shows, I'll admit to sometimes coming to a rating before I've finished it, and then sometimes I kind of try and justify that in my last few episodes. But this show, it kept surprising me, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. I think where I land on this show is that it's good. I enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know if I'd recommend it to someone else unless I knew their tastes very well. But I think this is an even 7 show for me, where I really enjoyed the character development. That was very much a positive for me. I enjoyed a lot of the performances and the individual actors. Brendan Fraser, Alan Tudyk, the one from Orange is the New Black, April Bowlby. Timothy Dalton. I love everything Timothy Dalton's in. Um, but I think I kind of agree with some of what Christy said about we were a little bit beaten over the head with some current social issues where it felt like we were explained several times what gender queer meant,
Mhm.
and we were also beaten over the head with how difficult it was to be a prominent gay man in the 50s, or I suppose it was the 60s for Larry Trainer. So, good
I have a
show,
comment
not
on that.
great. But, I think I could probably be persuaded to watch season 2.
Very
Just real
good.
fast. For Trainer's story in the original Doom Patrol, did they say he was gay,
I
or
don't
did they
know.
change that just for this series? Because Doom Patrol's pretty old, right? Like,
Back before X-Men.
Yeah,
yeah,
back to like 1963, something like that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go ahead and say probably no, just because it was the 60s, and maybe
Right?
that is the reason they're throwing back to it or something.
Mhm.
But I guess I'll go next, and then Chris can finish this up so she can see how this goes. But I really enjoyed the show. I from the very get go when I saw Brendan Fraser, because I had looked into some of the backstory and some of the issues he had been having, and was happy to see him kind of making a rebound. and I was rooting for
Totally
him.
agree. Yeah.
Like walking into the show, watching the first episode. I'm pretty sure I watched it. And I was like, "Hey, Christy, you definitely need to see this. Brendan Fraser's in it." and then I came and offered it for the show because I was like, this is one episode at least got me interested. And so through the whole thing, I very much was rooting for Cliff. Cliff was my favorite character through the whole show. He's an asshole. He's a lovable asshole. He's got his humanity, so obviously you can see some affinity there. But I don't know. Just Brendan Fraser's role, just in my opinion, perfectly executed that role. Every what the fuck, what in the fuck that
The fuck.
he shouted. It just felt right. Like some people may be offended by the language, but I felt like every single time he delivered that line, like it was for that moment. It wasn't just a rehashing or cutting up his audio over and over again. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the different story arcs. I felt like Larry's was a little slow. I felt like Jane's wasn't fully explained. But to me, I'm gonna have to give it an 8.5 also because I thought that they did a great job, great story. I'm really excited to see where they go, but I feel like they needed to tie some of the side quests to the main story arc. They needed to tie some of the other character development back to Mr. Nobody, and the only thing that was like Mr. Nobody had to do with it is like, I made you all go and realize that the chief was a bad guy, and it was like, yeah, but man, you took a long time to do it, and other bad guys showed up randomly to deal with their own shit. So like it did show some cool, interesting other aspects of the world, like the librarian guy, the drunk librarian guy that dealt with the city of whatever Noon. I thought Nernheim. I thought he was really funny. The I can't remember who plays him, but I've seen him before.
He was in what's it called? They're like con men. Dang it.
Matchstick Men.
What?
Matchstick Men?
No. They're like grifters and whatnot. It's a TV show.
Oh, is it? I know what you're talking about. Leverage?
Yes, he's in
Yeah.
Leverage. He's like the international police.
He's the Interpol. Yeah.
Interpol.
So I really enjoyed this show. I give it an 8.5. I definitely will watch the second season, but I also think I may want to wait till the third season comes out so I'm not left on that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So, all right, Christy, this is your first time doing the show. Kind of give your final thoughts on the show and what you would give it on a scale of 1 to 10. Feel free to give as many decimal places as you want to, because other people have.
Oh, jeez.
Your mic got muted, I think, Christy, because I can hear you in the other room, but I don't hear you coming through here.
You should be able to hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I tend to I watch a lot of different television shows. I can't necessarily tell when I'm watching a show if I actually like it or not. I find that if there is a show that the characters make me want to delve into other things that they have done, other acting projects that they have been in, when I'm thinking a lot about the show while not watching the show, if I'm kind of chewing on the same problems that the characters are chewing on when they're going through their conflicts, that to me is a show that I really enjoy more than anything. I would give this show a solid 9. I loved it. I couldn't have loved it more. I felt like it had all the good feels, it had the bad feels, it had laughter through tears, like it had everything that I want in my entertainment, and it left me wanting more. I definitely want to watch the second season. I'm a definite solid 9.
Very good. Well, Jay, you got the math tables correct.
I do, with a 8.5 from both Aaron and Adam, a 7 from me, and a 9 from Christy. We come out for an average score of 8.25. That's
Nice.
pretty good.
I was gonna guess 8.3. Well done.
Very nice.
So give me a moment. I can tell you where that's.
He's going to do some
ranked.
calculations. Beep, boop, beep, boop.
It's like
All
7,
right.
6.
In the master ranking, that puts it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The number 6 show on our leaderboard behind
Wow.
Righteous Gemstones, Band of Brothers, Chernobyl, Russian Doll, and season 1 of The Boys.
Nice.
Oh wow! It bounced right up against the boys, but the boys beat it ever so slightly.
Very slightly.
I have to say, the boys was impactful. Like this was good, but boys came out of the door and I was like, holy
It was
shit!
gritty.
Yeah,
It was gritty.
It took the grit to the extreme level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I think before the show we discussed and we kind of have set up a couple of friends that are going to be trying out with us on the show. So we have created our wheel of names of shows that we are going to be watching, which I have here. Sharing. You see that? So we have all of our shows. We have How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. Star Trek Lower Deck. I definitely misspelled Star Trek. GM Garth Marenghi Dark Places. Comrade Detective. FLCL or Fooly Cooley, and What We Do in the Shadows Season 2. So each of these are shows that have like a short season, maybe 6 to 10 episodes, and they're 20 minutes each. We have two friends that are going to be watching one of the shows with us, and then we'll be doing an episode with them later on next month. So I guess we'll do 2 spins to figure out what the 2 shows are, and I'll remove whichever show wins. Is that the fair, or is there any audibles, any requests?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Cool with that?
Here we go. First spin. How to sell drugs fast, online fast.
Ooh, I'm excited. This is one that I put forward.
So tell us a little bit about before we get just a base intro explanation of it without giving it away.
It's just to give it a very short explanation. It's basically Breaking Bad, but with a German high school student.
Okay, on the internet.
And it's funny.
Okay, so it's a satirical, funny Breaking Bad, not the sad I'm dying from cancer and everyone be sad for me as
Melts
I
people
become
in
into
barrels.
Right. It's a little bit of like a teen comedy show, but German, so it's like serious funny.
Was it just it's serious funny because they always sound serious when they're shouting and / talking?
No, it's just it's dealing with the drug trade, so it deals with some serious stuff. But good show. It's kooky. I've really enjoyed the first season. I'm currently watching the second. So I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' thoughts on it.
Okay. Okay. Point of order: do we want to leave Star Trek Lower Deck, your secondary pick, on the list and just spin again, or Adam? Do you have any feelings? I don't. I'm neutral on the point.
I'd say take it out.
You say take it out, Jay?
Yeah. I had my fun.
You got yours on. Okay, so we'll at least make it a little even. And here we go. Oh, well, hit spacebar instead of clicking the right thing.
Terrible.
Oh my God. FLCL. All right, Adam, give us just a slight explanation of what we are in for with FLCL.
Knucking Futs. That's
Knucking
what.
Futs. Okay. Anything more?
It's
you want me to
an
give it a little
animated short series that will leave you with questions.
Yeah, it's like a 4-episode little
That
anime
makes me want to watch it.
series. It is bizarre, I will say this, but it's also very, very good.
The point of the show is for us to watch shows that we wouldn't necessarily pick for ourselves. And, I don't want to speak for you guys, but for me, this is definitely going to go in that category.
It's very short, but
it is very short.
it's a
very
lot.
excited,
It's
though.
dense.
A lot of symbolism.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that is our choices. We will discuss with our friends which one we'll be watching which, and then we will get back with you once we have our episodes, or I guess our ducks in order. I'm going to stop the screen sharing, though, because I'm a professional. So, is there any last thoughts, any last feelings? Anyone excited? Anyone worried?
I'd just like to say thank you to Christy for filling in. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show today, and I hope the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, it is. It was a good time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We had a good time. All right. Well, that is it for the show this week. Check out next time where we will be watching FLCL, also known as Fooly Cooly, and How to Sell Drugs Online, parentheses, fast, close parentheses. So I am very excited. And Adam, you make sure you find out where we can watch FLCL. I know it used to be on Netflix, but
I can find it.
I'm looking at it on Hulu right now.
it's on Hulu. Okay.
It is on Hulu.
Sweet.
Excellent. All right. Everyone have a fantastic week, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.